Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Wednesday, and that means we are live for another Masterclass session. Today, we're going to be focusing on making isometric exteriors with the fantasy regional style. And more specifically, we're going to be creating these little dioramas on these isometric boards that we've created here, and then we're going to resize them to create a full-on regional map. So I'm super excited about that. If you want to follow along in today's stream, you can clone and edit this map right here, the one you can see on my screen, and then that way you can kind of follow along with that. Let's go ahead and turn off that little thing there, let people filter in, and then we'll jump right into it. I'm excited for this stream. The reason why I might recommend that we use these isometric dioramas is because think of them as like a sketch, and therefore you can make multiple variations of these sketches, and then when you feel you've got the right composition, and you can use the resize feature to resize it and then create a full-fledged map out of it. And the part of the challenge is that you also have this smaller space to work with. And so that's a nice challenge for you, our power users, and working on composition. Now, making one of these isometric little boards is really simple. I've called them flats, but they're a board. And really, they're simple to make. What you do is you can just use the shape tool to create an isometric top, and then use the fill, use a clipping mask. And then that way you can paint whatever painting or texturing that you want on top of that. And then I made the bottom part by just using a black shape, no stroke, and fill was just black. Okay, we'll end up removing this later just for the sake of just aesthetics. I've got this nice little diorama that we'll put together. All right, so some basic rules about when you're making these kinds of dioramas is that you should know a little bit about some rules that we kind of set that will be helpful. The first part is that really there are two parts of this diorama. The top part is where you're going to place taller stamps. And the reason why is because if you place taller stamps in the lower region right here in the lower region, what will happen is those stamps will block the view of the stamps behind them. So as a general rule, little artistic rule, instead of putting tall stamps in the front, put only tall stamps in the back part, back here. And that way, nothing will get in the way of blocking. So just one simple rule right there when it comes to placing down your stamps. Another thing you can do is you can place them dead in the center as well. Just make sure that you don't put too many stamps behind it unless there's some kind of reason for that. It's just the point is that you just don't want to block off the back part to where people can't see it. So general rule of thumb there. Now, before we jump into that, we have to come up with some ideas about what we want to make. I've got an example right here, a human village that was created. I used texturing as well as the stamps. It's not very many stamps at all. It's only maybe about a handful of textures. So this is what a kind of a mini diagram or what a little diorama would look like when you finished it. Now, if anyone there who's watching has any suggestions about what we should make, please give a shout out. It could be like an orc fortress or a wizard tower. Just make sure that it's an exterior and not an interior. So if anyone has any suggestions on what we should make, feel free to add those into the chat, and then I'll be sure to make those. So while people are putting them together, let's just talk about general composition and where to kind of start. So I'm going to select this flat, and I'm going to lock it so I don't accidentally select it. A dingy tavern. Oh, but it has to be an exterior of a dingy tavern, right? I like that idea of a dingy tavern. Why don't we type that in? Dingy tavern. Yes, I'm liking that. If people have other suggestions, don't be shy. Throw them out there. So dingy tavern, that's a good one. Oh, we'll double space here. There we go. Got a dingy tavern. Great, love it. Yeah, if you guys have suggestions, let me know. Okay, that looks good. All right, let's go ahead and make that dingy tavern. Hopefully others will come up with some ideas while we're putting this together. So the first thing, when you're putting together your composition on this isometric board, what you should do is pick the largest stamp first. The largest stamp. And the reason why is because it's going to take up the most amount of space. If you put on all the details first, then you kind of run out of room to put the bigger stamp. So, and also placing the biggest stamp first is also helpful to place the scale. Right? So once you've placed the largest stamp, then you can scale all other stamps against that largest stamp. So I'll go ahead and pick a place. We could say tavern if you want. There might be I don't think there's any taverns in there. There might be an inn. Let's type in inn. You got a couple of them right here. We got 8 of them. And I'll choose the one that's kind of the most isometric. I kind of like this one. This one's kind of cool. I like that. And go ahead and just place it down. Remember that rule. You don't want to place it in the front like this because everything behind it is kind of blocked. So putting it in the back in this corner or right here is good. In this corner is good. Up here or even centered. But I won't do centered because I want to have some space to put other things. So if I place this up in the corner, just right here like this, and I'll push it a little further back so I can put some trees behind it. So that's that first one. The next is I might want to consider putting in some farm pieces. So there are some farm stamps in here. And so we can use these to find some smaller, like a shack. There's a little shack right here. That'll be perfect. We could put that here or we can move it over to here. It's up to you. Little shack. And then maybe we want to have, let's see here. What else we have? Oop. There could also be this right here. This would work just fine. When you have a tavern, think about the elements, the things that you'll need on the outside of the tavern. Like if it's an inn and a tavern and they sell food, then they're going to need some crops, right? So save some room to put down some crops. And don't have everything be perfectly set to isometric. See, these 2 stamps right here are somewhat isometric when I line them up against the thing here. We'll throw in a couple stamps that are not lining up perfectly. So let's say that we want to add in that crop. So there's a crop right here we can put down. Put that crop in the corner. That looks good. You can put another crop right here or you can move it elsewhere. Let's put it right. Oh, let's see here. Let me look where the doors are at. Always, when you're doing your composition, always think about where the doors are to your building. So that way you don't place a bunch of stuff right in front of the door there and then it's blocked off. So make sure that you kind of show some space there for that. Okay, want to copy paste. Let's put 2 of these right here, side by side, right next to the barn. This will give us the food that we need. That's kind of step 1. Oh, sorry, Bitter Dan, you got to take off. All right, there we go. We have that, and we'll blend that in as well by adding in some brown texture. But for now, we'll call that good. With some other elements that might be necessary is a well of some kind. Right, we need to add a well. So we'll go ahead and put like a dingy well, and I think I'll put it just right here. And then we'll put a road that connects all of that together. So there's a little well right there. And then let's also throw in some trees as well. And remember, I said to put the taller stuff in the back. So it might not be a bad idea to go back 1 layer and then put these kind of taller trees. And what's really cool is that you can place these higher up just to make it look like there's some tall trees there. There we go. That looks good. Let's put some tall trees behind here as well. Remember, the tall stuff stays in the back. There we go. So we have those nice tall trees. Let's now go ahead and put some other trees in there. So let's put in, let's see here. Let's put in these trees right here. What I could do is change the hue a little bit to kind of match the same kind of yellowish kind of color. That might not be a bad idea. And just make sure that these are in front. So I want to place this in front of it. I want to place this one in front as well. And it's okay to place them in the front like this because I'm not going to block too much. Place another one right here. That way there's still some room to see what we're doing here. Just general compositions. All the tall stuff in the back, the shorter stuff in the front. So there's a good start. Let's go ahead and blend in that texture. So we can use this brown right here. Looks good. FG layer. And let's do the edgy brush. I can't tell you how helpful the edgy brush is for blending and texturing. It's very helpful. So we'll take the smallest roughness. We'll turn the smooth off. And of course, with the edgy brush, you should always turn the opacity down a little bit. And then you bring the brush size down. And then you just start with basic strokes first. Just single strokes going in like this. I just want to make sure that that ground blends in with the brown underneath. And this is also going to represent like a dirt path. And so we'll have that path go this way up against the house or the thing here, and then have the road go to here, and then we also want that road to connect into this as well. So I'll go ahead and move that well right to here. Thanks for getting the first steps of it, right? Coming together all right. It's just very helpful to use the edgy brush. You know, sometimes I find it difficult to do blending with just the soft brush, and it just gives a nice effect. Let me zoom in so you can see what I mean. You see it has those nice rough little edges there. And what it does is it kind of does some of the blending for you instead of multiple strokes with a softer brush. The effect is different, but the concept kind of remains the same. One thing I also want to do is maybe bring the brightness down on this a little bit. There we go. Okay. I think we can add in some more details. I think I'll remove these trees. Let's go ahead and put something else there. Let's go ahead and put maybe some hay. If there's probably going to be a stable or something like that for horses, so let's go ahead and put a hay barrel or a haystack over here, and then we can put all the other stuff that goes with hay, like this hay barrel stick right here, and then we can even put maybe this piece right here. You can lean it up against the wall right here. That would distribute some of the yellow-ish color here. We have 3 items that have yellow in it, and then by putting it over here, we're distributing that color a little bit. Let's put it on top of the barrel there. I like that. Okay. Now, when you're wanting to add some kind of hay texture, you can use dry grass. It won't show up in Fantasy Regional, so if you click Fantasy Battle Maps, and we'll go ahead and find this dry grass right here. It's perfect. We're going to change the texture size. We're also going to change the saturation to get that yellowish, produce that relatively same yellow. And we'll change the hue a little bit just to get that yellowish color. And then just like before, just take that texture, just kind of place it on the ground like that. And so you have this nice dry grass. We'll put some over here by this thing as well. And it doesn't hurt to kind of put it a little bit there as well. Okay, there you go. So you're kind of getting the general concepts, putting on the largest stamps first, so that way you can use it as a guide for scale. Remember to place all of the larger stamps in the back and shorter stamps in the front. Okay, the next thing, well, let's save it real quick. We're at 194 changes. All right, so you guys are getting the general concept on putting these together. I find that it's a lot easier to make maybe several variations of a dingy tavern on maybe of these different types of isometric boards that I've made. And then the one that you like the most, the composition that you like the most, then you can resize. That's one of the reasons why I use this method, so that it's just easier. I can choose between 4 or 5 different variations that I like. And of course, maybe I like them all and they could all be a different map. And then you can, once you've made them into a full-fledged regional map, then you can turn around and turn those into battle maps. And I find that translating regional maps to battle maps is very, very helpful, because sometimes when you're putting down a battle map, you just don't have references that you need to put together what you want to make. And so practicing making your dungeon or whatever it might be with the fantasy regional style first allows to create depth. It has more dimension because it's fantasy regional. And then from there, you can glean how to put together your battle map. So it's very helpful there. All right, let's go ahead and add in a couple more details. Whenever I have grass like this, I like to throw in maybe a little bit of grass. So we'll go back to Fantasy Regional and type in grass. Couple tricks with grass is that you can leave it as is and just place it down like that. Or you can also use the lighten blend mode. I've kind of noticed this is kind of helpful. You can go to blend mode and then go to lighten. And then what this lighten blend mode does is it kind of allows you to still see the blades of grass, but it blends in with the texture beneath it. And so this is a nice little trick that I kind of use when I don't want to have the thick black line work of the grass covering, kind of showing up. And so this lighten blend mode with the grass stamp is very, very helpful. So I can kind of place them in front of things. Cool little trick. I love using this trick. Put it in front of this one. Put it in front of here as well. That looks good. Let's put it in front of this one. We can even put some over here as well, in front of this. There we go. So you can get some nice grass just kind of sticking out right there. That adds a little bit of extra dimension to it. That looks nice. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a step back here and take a look at it. Some other nice tricks that I like to do is to kind of rotate trees to where they're rotating and angling in different directions. Sometimes trees don't grow perfectly straight, right? There's some angling from maybe from heavy winds that are causing them to be windswept trees, where the trees, they bend because of constant wind or because the earth was unlevel, it wasn't flat, and so it kind of grew in a different direction. So nice little tricks to kind of rotate these in various directions just to give it a nicer feel to it. This is a master class, and just these little tiny little things like rotating things, adding in little details like that, all of that is very helpful to make it look more unique. Let's keep adding in more things to it. I think what we should add is some bushes, or we can add in some more color. And so if we add in some flowers, we can add in some nice color. Because right now we don't have a lot. We just have greens. We have some little bit of reddish orange here, yellows. So a lot of natural colors here, and they look fine. But what about adding in a dab bit more color? And so adding in these kind of flower-like stamps adds in a bit more color, and I like doing that. Let's add in some lavender as well. You can put that on the side there. Maybe put one even over here. And let's add in some yellow as well. So just kind of throwing in some of these random little extra bit of color here just to make it pop out is a very nice choice. There you go. So now you have a little bit of pop of color there. That's nice. Right. Let's kind of go over the list here. Some other things we can do is maybe we want to have a camp, a little fire pit area where people can sit outside and enjoy their food. So we'll type in log, and then there is no logs in Fantasy Regional, so you'll have to use Fantasy Battle Maps. And I'll go ahead and bring the brightness down, and we'll create some logs that will kind of represent places to sit. Okay, and then we'll also use that brownish texture and put it underneath as well. When I add the brown texture, what the brown is supposed to represent is trodden ground, right? It's whenever you keep walking over a grassy area, eventually the grass gets pulled out. It gets flattened, it gets pulled out, whatever it might be. And so one way to kind of show that is by using brown as a texture. It's been walked on, moved around a lot. So that's kind of helpful. And then I'll just take that white texture, or that hay-like texture that I was using called dry grass, and then put that in here as well. Right. Now, some other things that you can do is you can add a stone texture underneath the ground if you want. So you can use this stone texture right here. I'll go ahead and bring the opacity all the way up. Let's go to scale. See, I just bring the scale way down. There we go. And then I'll bring the color down to where it's on the same brightness as the stone, as the building. And then I'll bring that opacity back down, and then we'll try it again. And then just put that stone just right underneath. There you go. Now you have some nice stone underneath. There we go. Take a step back. Just put a little bit of stone just at the base of the building. And if you want, you can even put some stone in the road. And then we should definitely put some underneath this well right here. And then we'll just put a little bit of... There we go. Okay. So we'll take a step back and look at it. And so you'll see how it's kind of coming together. And we have the necessary infrastructure, right? We've got a little shed here that's going to carry maybe a horses, or it might be a stable, or it might be a place to store firewood or store food. We don't really know. You've also got hay here. If there's going to be a stable and there's going to be horses, then you're going to need a way to feed those horses. So we have hay here. We have a little outdoor seating right here. That's perfect. We also have the inn itself. Of course, we have the necessary infrastructure, the food. We have a water source. So these are all kinds of necessary things. When you're putting together a little settlement like this, think about the necessary infrastructure. Availability of food, availability of water, availability of resources like wood. All those kind of things are necessary. And then you just keep adding those things. And it makes it more realistic when you add those things. One thing we could also do is maybe just make little tiny foot trails. So if I just use the smallest brush, and what I'll do is I'll just have little foot trails that kind of go around to things. So we'll go to a little path that goes over to here, a little path that goes to here, path that walks off here. Cool. These are little footpaths that people kind of walk around. There we go. That adds that last bit. And I'll just single click a little bit just to get those to blend in a little bit more. There we go. And then you can go back and grab that grass that you were using with the light and blend mode. And then you can put that grass just right here again. A little bit more grass pieces there. There we go. Okay, let's take a step back. All right, I'm gonna, this seems a little too under contrast, so I'm gonna bring the contrast on this just to be a little bit darker, because right now this is what it kind of looks like. And then if I bring the contrast up, it makes it a little bit darker. I kind of like that. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and save it. We have a lot of changes here. And then let's quickly add some light sources, and then we're gonna create some more. Hey, first time chatter. Oh, sorry to hear that. Do you have any suggestions, by the way, Baba Killen, on what kind of maps you want to see? I saw Andurli in the city street in front of the gates to the inner keep. I love that idea. We could do that too. Let's see, I'd say an inner keep maybe, or a Barbican. We can type that in. Okay, cool. I like that. Yeah, please, any suggestions that you might have, please let me know, and we are going to make that. Okay, let's add that light source. So one of the tricks I've mentioned in a lot of streams is to stack your light sources to get varying effects. So for the direct fire itself, I'll get this orange light source, orange light, and I'll put it at layer 4 and then put it right on top of the fire, because that's the direct light source itself. And then I'll take a larger one, put it on layer 5, and then bring the opacity down. This is going to be the larger halo. And then I'll just put that basically right on top of it. There you go. And then you have a light source. And you'll notice that having a light source has a huge impact on the map. You see how more interesting it looks when you add light sources? Very, very helpful. And you can add light sources on other things as well. Like you can add a light source on top of the roof, right? Where there's the maximum amount of light hitting it. You can also put light sources on top of trees if you want to add that there's more light hitting it. So I put some light on top of the trees here. Kind of a nice little trick that you can do. There you go. It's got some light sources. And we can also end up changing the size of them because I don't want them to bleed off. Okay, so very useful tricks when you use light sources. You can really get them to make the top of the trees pop off, and I really like that. Same thing here. We could put a light source just right on top of this hay right here. It applies to any rule, really. When it comes to light sources, you just need to decide where the light is. Because I put a light source right here on this side of the house, it would be kind of clear that the light is probably coming in this direction, like that. That's pretty clear because you have that light source here, and then the light's on the top of the tree. So the light is probably coming this way. And now that we know that, we can probably paint in some shadows as well. But you know what? I'll save the shadow work for the larger composition, because the thing is with these little mini models is that you don't have to create every single detail, right? That's the beauty of this, is that sometimes when you're putting together a composition and you're making a full-fledged size map, you can get overwhelmed and then you lose interest. So using these little dioramas helps to avoid and overcome that, like, ooh, I feel like I'm not getting much done here because I have this huge canvas and I'm just not populating it with enough stamps and I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. That's the beauty of using these little dioramas, is that, again, you don't have to add so many details to where you lose interest. And so making the dioramas, starting from there and then resizing them, is really the greatest trick. Okay, let's go ahead and do the final save here, and then I'm going to show you the resize, and then we'll make a couple more because it's still early on. It's only been 23 minutes. We want to make at least 2 more, but I want to show you the resize process and then what I do after that. So check this out. So now that I've saved it, the step is that you need to go to the grid tool. You're going to go resize, and you're going to want to basically cover wherever you have the top part, where that clip mask part is. You're going to want to cover at least that whole part. So go in here, all the way up here. I think that should cover the whole thing. You can make space if you want. The exact pixel dimensions pop up, but I'm just going to resize it. Okay, and I'm going to confirm it. And then I'm going to turn this for the new map, remove all objects outside of the selected region. Just turn that off, save and proceed. And it's going to open up a new map. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll delete that flat or that isometric board, and then we'll be able to add in all these details. Hey, first time chatter. Doing great. Glad that you are here, by the way. Awesome that you are here. Awesome, awesome. Any suggestions for future isometric boards, let me know, okay? So here's what you do next. All you have to do is go to the mask tool and then go fill all. And then you're going to go ahead and select the flat. So we'll unselect, I'm going to select this flat and then delete. There you go. Now we've transfused or transplanted it onto here. And now you just have to fill in those other spaces. So let's just save first. It's always helpful to save the whole composition first. We'll call this Dingy Tavern. Now from here, you need to fill in those gaps. And it's not too complex. What you can do is there's a couple things that you can do. One, you can fill in all those negative spaces with trees, and that way you could say that this is a dingy tavern that's somewhere in a glade in the forest. Or you can make it a flat plane around it. You can add in cliffs. You can add in a background or scenery in the back of it. There's all these different things that we can do. And in fact, we'll probably do a little bit of mix of both. We'll have a scenery in the background, and then we'll also have maybe some trees filling in a part of it, and then we'll add in a couple more sections. So what we'll do is we'll dedicate 4 sections. So we have a section here, a section here, here, and here. And so for these 2 sections, we'll probably put a background. So we can add nice, beautiful rolling hills, and maybe even some perspective work by putting some mountains in the far background, maybe some ocean, whatever it might be. On this one right here, we can just put in some trees and then maybe a road that leads out that way. And then we already have a road right here, so we'll make sure to fill this in with whatever it might be, a tree, or it might be an extra structure. It could be for food. It could be whatever it might be. So you have a lot of options there. So very helpful to kind of think about what you want to do with those negative spaces, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and do the first one. We'll throw in some trees. And I want to make sure that these are on the right layer. This is on layer negative or on +1. That's fine. And so I'm going to create a nice little border right here of trees. And I'm going to create a little bit of room for a road to show up. So I'll go ahead and place these here. A little bit of a frame piece. There we go. One more right there. And then just like I did before, I'll take that brown texture, edgy brush. Now you'll have to change the settings because remember, we resized the map to a new map. So you have to end up changing that. And I'll bring the opacity down. And then I'll finish continuing making a little road right here. Kind of going in right here, a little road here. And then I'll continue it on going up through there. There we go. Same thing here. I'll have the road continue going on this way. There we go. Okay. And remember that trick we talked about. You want to show that that there's light showing up on the tree, and just go and throw a light source right on the top of those trees to show that. Nice little trick there that you can do. Okay. All right, so that part's done. Let's go ahead and throw in the background part, right? So maybe some rolling hills would be nice. So I'll type in hill or rill. Not sure what a rill is, but it might work. And there are a couple options that we can go about doing hills. We could just make them brown and then texture them accordingly. Let's see here. This needs to go down a layer. There we go. Let me make sure that I have it on the right layer. So I could make them brown like this and then paint brown all behind them. Or I can change the blend mode to luminosity, and then I can just make them this color, so you can do that. So let's go ahead and place some rolling hills down. Again, I want to go to blend mode, luminosity. There we go. Let's place a couple, one there. Let's put some bigger ones in here. There we go. Here's a big one. Put it there, there. And let's put another one. I think that should be good. There we go. Some rolling hills. And I want to make sure that it overlaps. So putting them behind is a good idea. See how it's behind the tree right here? Overlap. Perfect. This one right here, behind the trees, overlap. Super important. You want to create a sense of depth. You do overlap. That's the trick. Yes, the stuff that we are making, we are using the pro version to make all this stuff. Absolutely. Okay. So let's go ahead and save it with all these changes. And I'm going to go ahead and finish in the last bit of details that are going to fill in. And then we'll go ahead and start the next one. So super excited. I think the next one is going to be some kind of keep. So that's cool. I'm excited about that. So you're getting the general idea, right? It's just once you've made the isometric board, you go ahead and transplant it into a new map, and then you just fill in the negative spaces. And what's really cool is maybe we can throw in some interesting, unique stuff in the background there by maybe throwing in some ruins. I think is a good idea. Let's use maybe this one right here. We can put some ruins in here. We can put it on top of a building. We can put it behind or whatever. We could use a ruined tower. Let's see here. Let's put in tower. There's a ruined tower there and a ruined tower there. We can go with those. Oops, I did not want to do that. Put a tower there. Let's see here. Trying to see what other ruins we can use. Let's see here. There's that one. Okay. Hard to decide what exactly I want to use. Usually what goes on on top of a hill is a series of things. Trees. You can have a statue. You can have like a watchtower. Like this watchtower right here works really well on top of a tree. Just make sure that if you are going to put a watchtower, make sure it's not kind of maybe not blocking it too much. So we could put it like right here or right here so you can see more of it. So I can push this back. You can see there's a watchtower here. Usually it's going to be on a high location so that it can see from a distance, right? You build on a higher up location to increase your distance. So putting this on top of a tall hill is a good idea. You can't see it, but at least we'll put that there. It might not be a location your players have to go to. And again, I'll just put some in the background here. I want to put it further back, make them a little bit smaller. Put this here, and then let's put some mountains in the background. Oopsie, got the T. There we go. Put a mountain on here. I want to make sure it's on the right layer as well. Push it down. And just remember, because we use the blend mode, it's going to make, when I put this behind it, it's going to pick up that color. So know that one thing about blend modes. Let's go ahead and put some mountain regions in the back here. A mountain here. And what I won't do is put a mountain right here, because what's the point of having a watchtower if there's a mountain right next to it? You won't be able to see over the mountain. So not having a mountain here would suggest that, hey, it can see something over there. And so what we'll do is we'll add in a little road as well. And so I'll make a little road that goes in right here that kind of leads back to here. There we go. And that's why else would you have the watchtower there if there wasn't a road going that way? Remember, kind of use that logic there. Let's also split the road and have it go this way as well. And that way I can kind of blend in this. So we have that nice road going this way. And I'm not going to add stone I'm not going to add stone here because these are just paths. They're not necessarily like a huge road. This right here is kind of the main road. And so I'll end up using the stone for this area over here. I'm going to quickly save it. You'll notice you make a lot of changes, so we'll quickly save. Lots of different things. So always just think about the composition, things that you're going to need, right? If you have, what I generally do that helps me figuring out composition is just the necessary things to make a settlement survive. We did the infrastructure. I showed you that watchtower right there. Okay, if I have a watchtower there, then there has to be something there worth watching, right? And so putting the road there is important, right? So you're starting to put together the logic and the framework on how you put together your compositions. And this same logic applies to all maps, whether you're making a battle map, a city, a fantasy regional, a fantasy world, whatever map you're making, you have to follow that logic, right? If a structure is there, does it have infrastructure to back it up? Does it have resources available? All of those things are very, very helpful. Okay, so just kind of remember that stuff. Let's go ahead and push this down a layer. I'm kind of noticing the shadow is off. So I'll bring this down. There we go. See, the shadow was in front of the tree, and that looked weird. My bad there. Let's go ahead and throw in a couple more details, like adding in bushes, and then we'll make one more. I'm not sure if we'll have enough time to make 3 more. We'll see. Let's go ahead and put down some bushes. And with the bushes, what I like to do is sometimes it's nice to line the road. What it does is that lining the road creates a little frame around the road. And the trick to it is not to create a straight line of bushes. So if I'm putting this bush down right here and I go to multiple, my suggestion is not to create this straight line like this. That looks weird. But when you create variations of a couple here and there that make the hint of a line, then what you do is you gives a more natural feel, right? Bushes don't just all grow in a perfectly straight line around the edge of a road, right? And so throwing up that variation is helpful. And what's nice also in variation is to have varying sizes. So because I have medium and big size bushes, don't be afraid to throw in just some tiny ones as well. This is kind of important when you want to create a sense of organic reality, right? Is this variation of plants. And so I'll put in some smaller ones as well. And it doesn't hurt to also maybe line some of the over here with some bushes as well. You just, in other words, think of it as like you're lining a little bit of the property with these bushes. Kind of makes sense, right? And so we have some extra space right here as well. So it wouldn't hurt to maybe put some things right there as well. Let's go ahead and open this up. Maybe we want to put in, maybe there's like a camp. Maybe there's a traveling merchant that lives just right outside the inn and they make some money there. So it doesn't hurt to maybe put a tent of some kind out here. Just put that right there. And maybe this is like a traveling merchant, or if you want, you can put a market stall right there as well. Maybe you want to put a little market right here. Another great thing to add there. Maybe you want to add in a ruin of some kind of an old location. You can do that as well. All kinds of variations on what you kind of do. Maybe there's an old ruin right here. I don't really like that color, so I'll desaturate it to make it kind of this grayish color. Put it right here. So put an old ruin just right here in the corner. And then, of course, it makes kind of sense to maybe put in some of that stone texture underneath it for a couple reasons. One, it's going to add in a similar like material. Because the ruins are made of stone, it kind of makes sense that the ground underneath it would also be made of stone as a foundation to keep the structure level. And so throwing in some stone is a good idea. And then also maybe throwing in some trees as well. So I'll take a tree and just put it right next to it. And then I'll put another tree, and then we'll put this one behind it. So I'll put this down a layer and put that behind it. There we go. Because we want to create that sense of depth, right? So putting a stamp behind something gives it that extra sense of depth. Let's also throw in some other trees as well. Let's put in maybe some pine or coniferous trees. So we'll throw in these coniferous trees. And I'm going to throw them right on top like this. And this is going to give an extra little bit of pop of color. So now we have this nice green. The one thing you don't want to put these trees is like over here, because what that does is it blocks the view of the watchtower to the road. So don't put trees over here where it's going to block the view of the watchtower. Makes sense. You can also add in more variation by throwing in, you can also throw in one of these trees into here as well to add variation, because technically there's not just one type of tree in a forest, right? There's generally multiple. So throwing in trees like this, multiple in here, gives it a extra sense of depth and reality, right? So nice to throw that in there. And then why don't we also throw in some bushes as well? And just throw in like a cluster. Throw in, oh, not on the road, my mistake. I did not want to do that, my mistake. 3 is a good cluster. You can even put them, line them along this road right here. That's fine. Okay. Looks good. All right. All right, let's go ahead and add in a little bit more, and then we'll call this one good. I think you guys are getting the general idea on how to put the scene together, right? We've got all these locations now. We've got the inn itself. We've got an old ruin that your players might want to explore before they go to the inn, or they might want to go explore the watchtower, or maybe they're defending this place. So there's all these different things that you can do, and I love the idea of stumps. Great idea. Whoever said that, who said stumps? Andurlian, great idea. Stumps. And it makes perfect sense because you would need to cut down the trees for 1, wood for your structures, and 2, you would need to cut them down to make sure that the view is not blocked, right? So putting some trees in the back here cut is going to make it clear, right? And we'll put them all along here where the watchtower is, because that way the towers aren't obstructing, or it's not obstructing the view of the tower. And we'll also put some in here as well. It's okay to have a couple around here. Okay. I think that looks good. Let's also put some at the base of the forests that I have here. So I have a tree here. So let's put one there. See how I have these trunks of the trees? Go ahead and put a couple by the trunks of the trees. And remember, varying sizes. Make some small ones. Make a cluster of them. Make a bigger one. Make a massive one. Make a smaller one. Maybe put one right next to here and here on top of the wood. So you're starting to get kind of the general idea on how it all works. Put some white on top right here and one right here. Pretty cool, huh? So pretty neat when you can start putting all these things together. Let's go ahead and save it. All right, let's go ahead and make one more because that took us about 30 plus minutes to do all of that. Thank you, Ann Derlian. That is a great suggestion. Absolutely love it. Okay. All right, so we have that saved. And we're going to go back to the maps, return to our maps, let that load. All right, so you see what we did. We went from this piece right here to this piece right here. Not complex, right? And it didn't take very long. It took us 30 minutes to kind of put this together following that basic principles, all right? So let's go back into here and we'll create the next one. So very, very helpful. I find that fantasy regional maps are really fun to make. And when you make them right, you can even use them as battle maps, but you have to be very careful about how you put them together. Maybe we'll do a stream on how to create fantasy regional battle maps. I've got a ton of them on my profile, so they're pretty easy to make, but there's some principles that you need to know if you want it to work. All right, so Dingy Tavern done. Let me go through the list here of what people recommended. I know for sure that someone mentioned a wizard tower. Oh, I love that idea. There's also a barbican here. Let's see here. What, anyone else suggest anything? Nope, not really. Let's do that wizard tower because I really like the concept of a wizard tower. So let's build that. No offense. We'll skip the barbican and go to wizard tower. I love that idea. So wizard tower. Okay. All right. So wizard tower, not complex. Let's build the terrain first. So if it's a tower, it needs to have natural defenses. Height is one of those defenses. So let's take a hill of our choices, or you can use a mountain. It's up to you. We used hills before. Let's use a mountain for this. Okay, and this scale is going to be slightly different, right? Because I've got a whole mountain on here. The scale is going to be a little bit different. So instead of being a more zoomed in scene like this scene is going to be a little more zoomed out. So I'll place the mountain down first, right on top. And it's okay to have it either be centered or push it up a little bit more to the corner. I've already, in the last one, we put it in the corner there. So for this one, let's not do that. Let's push it a little bit to the side and over here. First step, building the terrain. Let's also pick a tower that we want to represent the wizard tower. And let's make some platforms, actually. Let's see here. In Pirate, there are these really cool little... These are technically tiers for water, because you can see the water at the bottom of them right here. But I cheat and use these to make platforms all the freaking time. And so what I'll do is I'll show you how to make a platform or a foundation. So check this out, cool trick. So what we'll do is first, we're going to create the shape first, and we don't even have to make it on the map itself. So we'll just put together the shapes like this first. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put that one there. I'm going to rotate this one, that one, and put that one on top right there. There we go. Let's see here. Make sure that I got this set up right. There we go. And you're going to want to make sure that these two are up a layer and these two are down a layer. There's a reason for that, because we're going to use a clipping mask to fill this in eventually. So remember, we're going to use a clipping mask for that. Okay. Then I'll go in. I'm going to go to the shape. You're going to choose the pen. The fill is going to be clip with no stroke. And I'm just going to go in like this, like that. Press enter, plus, and then you have this clip mask. It's going to be right on top like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just group this whole thing. I'm going to accidentally lock that. There we go. I'm going to group this, create group, and we're going to call it a platform or foundation, or whatever you want. And these things are very helpful because you can do a lot with these things. These are very helpful. So let me go ahead and put the foundation down right here, and I might have to adjust the mountain a little bit more. So I'll make some adjustments by using the transform feature here. You just need to grab these white hotbars. Let's go ahead and put one right here, and then I'll put a foundation right here. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and pick a texture that I want to represent the ground. And so what I'll do is I'll go to FG layer and just go ahead and fill this in. That looks okay. Let's bring the brightness down. It does seem to be, there we go. It does match a little bit better. There we go. There's your stone texture. Goes on top. And now we have a nice foundation. Looks good. And then let's go ahead and add in maybe a staircase. We want access. How is it that people get up to this location? So we have to add access. We'll put a stair here. And we'll use clipping masks to hide part of the tier. I'll show you some cool tricks on how to hide some of these things. So nice little trick. We'll get to that. Add that there. Let's go ahead and add the tower. You can use whatever tower you want. Lots of different variations here. Let's use this one. I kind of like this tower right here. This looks nice. We'll go ahead and put that just right on top. And the way that I do is I'll line it up so it fits on top like that. There we go. And then we have foundation here, here, and there. And then I can copy and paste this and then just put it right on top like this. And then we have another little location right here. And then I could put this just right on top like that. And let's actually bring the mountain down a little bit. There we go, like this. Okay, and I might even want to add another one right here like that. There we go. Cool, there we go. Kind of getting it together. Let's say right here looks good. Okay, and that tower looks good. There we go. Let's put this down right here. Okay, there we go. Nice little tower right on top. Perfect, and we also want access, right? So we'll go ahead and just flip this, bring the size down, and then here's the next location to kind of get up to here. Okay. Now let's use the clipping mask to kind of remove some of this stuff. So I can go in like this. And I'm just going to go all the way against here like this. And I'll show you some cool tricks. Okay, press enter, plus. There we go. And I'll put this up a layer to where it's hiding that. And don't worry about the little mistakes you see right there. We're going to hide that later. Don't worry. I'll show you how to fix that problem. For now, let's just stick with the basic stuff. We want to make sure that we hide all this stuff. Press enter, plus. There we go. Oopsie. I missed the spot right there. There we go. Enter, plus. There we go. Okay. The stairs. So next, what you need to do is you need to hide those kind of little mistakes that you made right there. And so what I'll do is I'll do all kinds of things. You can use vines. You can use little tower pieces right here to kind of hide that, put that on top of it. You can use whatever you want. There's all these cool little variations, little ways that you can kind of put it together. Let's just use some towers. Desaturate some towers, put them up a layer, and I'll just put it right on top like that. Another one in the back, like this, like that. Okay. Oops, I noticed that it's kind of covering up this, so let's go ahead and push this back down. There we go. And then I'll fill in this as well with that texture that I need. Same thing. I'll go ahead and add in these just right here, and then put the next one back down a layer like this. There we go. And don't worry about that little error right there. We'll cover that with like some grass or whatever it might be. Let's just quickly save it at 68 changes. We'll start putting things together. Okay. Awesome. Let that save. We're just going to keep going. And I'll show you some pretty dang cool tricks as well on showing more elevation. Let's go ahead and move this a little bit more over to here. I think that looks good. And then I'll just repaint. There we go. Okay, looks good. Let's also let's increase the height of this a little bit. Let's add in something special. If it's a wizard's tower, right? How is it that we determine that it's a wizard tower? Well, we can put like a crystal or something at the top of it. We could put a summoning circle at the top of it. There's all these cool little tricks that we can do. We could put an eye, like an eye of Sauron or something, whatever you want. All these cool little things. Let's go over to, not Parchment World, Fantasy World. And I do believe in Heraldry, there's a little crystal that we can use. Expand all assets. Let's see here. Is it under Heraldry? Here it is. Okay, right here. Perfect. And we're going to add this crystal. We're going to put it right there. Put it in front. Oopsie, I'm noticing that this needs to go down a layer. There we go. Okay. And then we have a crystal right there. Let's also take a summoning circle. 1 second while it's in fantasy battle maps there. And when you're doing a summoning circle for the top, I recommend one of these summoning circles because they have transparency. This one is just, it has no transparency to it, but this one right here does. And so when you're adding it, you can see the stamps underneath it. And the way that I go about doing this is pretty simple. Just kind of pick whatever one you want, and then you'll go ahead and just rotate it, or not rotate, but transform it. And the way that if you get stuck on how to transform it, use this is a guide itself. So if I look at this right, it seems to fit on there just about right. And so I can just put that right there on top. And then I recommend changing the blend mode to like lighten or screen. These work out fine. And let's change the scale. There we go. And then you have this nice summoning circle just right on top right there. And then you can also use a light source as well. Let's use this orange one. We'll put it on top. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the hue to make it this purplish, more like color. There we go. I'll put it right on top, right like that. And then we can change the blend mode to whatever we want. We might have to change the blend mode again. I kind of like that. That's kind of cool. Might have to change the blend mode again because the white background, it acts differently. So we'll have to end up probably changing that, but you get the general idea there. So we have our access points on how to get there. Let's add in some more details and stuff. Let's add in some more railing and some other fun stuff. Go back to Fantasy Regional. I'm going to use this to create some railing. I'll desaturate it, put that on top. And then I do believe we can also use these right here. Should work fine. Let's desaturate these as well. These are going to act as like maybe a corner piece that goes like that. And then we'll add in the next pieces. Just like this, you just add these that's a little bit of railing there. Okay, a little more right there. And then we'll go ahead and add this piece on there. Oopsie, I'll copy and paste these, my mistake. Copy, paste. There you go. Add another one right there. Okay, and add another one right there. Cool. And you guys are getting the general idea on how to put it together. I'll go ahead and copy and paste this one as well. There we go. Okay, and you can kind of see that it's kind of coming together now. There we go. So now we have some nice railing kind of covering it up there. So it's coming together nicely. All right, looking good. Let's go ahead and blend in with the texture underneath us. Let's see here. I do believe this texture right here will probably work well with that. Let me go ahead and make sure I'm set to FG. Make sure I'm set to the edgy brush. Let's go ahead and bring the opacity down. And then I'll just go ahead and kind of place a little bit of this brown texture underneath. And that will blend in a little bit. There we go. Nice. Blending in. And you'll notice that I kind of have to redo this right here because I painted over it. But it's an easy fix, not complex, right? And then I'll use that same texture again to maybe create a little road that kind of leads to it, right? So a little road here that goes this way. And if you want, you can even create a little bit of a road that goes underneath or bring some foundation to it by adding in some of the stone texture that we're using. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so not complex, kind of putting that together. There we go. Looks good. All kinds of cool stuff that you can do with the Wizard Tower. Maybe we want to create a force field that goes around the tower. All kinds of fun stuff that we can do. We could use the shape tool to actually create that. So let's go with no stroke and fill, and we'll use a texture. And it can be whatever texture you want. I'll go to Fantasy Battle Maps, and we can maybe find an interesting texture that might look interesting for a force field, like this one right here, this maple grass. That might work fine. Let's go ahead and make a circle. Oopsie, there it is right there. A circle right there. Let's change the texture scale. There we go. Let's put it up a layer, all the way up a layer. Oopsie. Let's go ahead also and select all of these and create group. And I'm going to put this a layer below because this needs to go on top of it. And so I can go and put this on top, and then I can change the blend mode of the shape. 1 second while I select that. Here we go. Where's the blend mode? There it is. Darken. So you can see you can use this to kind of create a force field that you want. So you can have that kind of look like a force field. We can use whatever texture we want to. We could use, give me a second while I look here. You could use this one right here. So it has that interesting thing. You can even change the color of it. So if you wanted to have a purple force field or whatever going around it, or green, and you can adjust the texture as you see fit. So if I want, I can go in and change the rotation. I can change the scale of it as well, so I can get more of the artifacts within the ball. So all these kind of interesting things that you can kind of do to make it more interesting. I kind of like the purple the best, or the pink. So I'll go back into hue and we'll kind of create this purplish like shield that kind of goes around it. You can also blur it if you wanted to. That way the stamps behind it are in focus while the force field itself is blurred, and that way it won't take away too much from that. So let me bring the opacity down. So you can always do that. So lots of different cool ways that you can kind of do things. The shape tool is very powerful. There's a lot that you can do with it. I'll go ahead and turn it off so we can kind of just see it. Let's go ahead and throw in maybe some trees and some more vegetation stuff. Let's throw in some cliffs. Maybe go to fantasy regional. Where are we at for time? 56. Ooh, we're not going to have enough time. Let me just put in cliffs, and we'll work on this, finish this diorama, and then we'll work on, and then we'll call it good here. I'm not going to resize this one. So great places to put cliffs is lining them up with the line work of the mountains. So I got a cliff right here. It lines up nicely with the line work. We'll do it again right here. Let's put in another one. We'll scroll through. This looks nice. We'll put in a one right there as well. Let's put in another one. Let me just find the proper cliff that I need for that. There it is, right there. We'll put one right here like this. There we go. And we're kind of putting the cliffs together, right? All right, let's put another one over here. We'll make kind of like a ravine kind of like thing right there. Okay, let's keep adding a couple more. Just going to keep, oh, let's add another one right here. I think that looks good. All right, cool. Let's see here. About there looks good. Okay, so you're starting to get that terrain is starting to come together. Let's copy and paste, put one more right here, and then put something in the corner right here. There we go. Okay. All right, so now we have a little extra piece there. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead also. I'm going to ungroup this. And then let's go ahead and throw in some trees. Let's throw in some dead trees. We put in a lot of other ones. So let's put some dead ones in. Let's also put like an important tree, like a dead tree, like right here. It's kind of somewhat important. Let me make sure that all the stamps are down a layer too, by the way. Select all from this set. Boom, there we go. Just want to make sure it's on the right layer. Let's put one little extra location right here. We can put a dead tree right there. If you don't like where it is, we can move it over to here and put it right here instead. In fact, I kind of like it better maybe in one of these corners over here. And don't worry about that cliff right there that's overhanging, because when you do end up resizing it, you're filling it all with the add mode of the mask tool. So it's okay if you overlap it. Don't worry. That's not important, because you're not going to end up using the diorama in the end. You're going to end up deleting it. Okay, let's keep adding in some more stuff. We're going to add in more dead trees. I'm going to put them all in the back, because right now it seems really flat in the back and there's not a lot going on. So adding in these dead trees in the very back will help to kind of remove the flatness of the line from the diorama there, even though it's not really going to matter. But it also had nice to add in some things to kind of frame it. Let's put in some dead trees right here. Put one over here, and it wouldn't hurt to maybe put one maybe back here somewhere. There we go. Put maybe a big old one right here. Special one. We'll bring the brightness down so it pops out a little bit more maybe. If that doesn't look good, we can throw in something else. Let's add in some more fantasy elements. Go to fantasy battle maps. Let me type in skull. You might be able to throw in a skull. You know, it's always good to throw in a skull from time to time, right? Let's put in a skull. I think it might look good right here. There we go. Yeah, that looks much better. You know, I also don't like the color. I might desaturate it a little bit more. There we go. Bring the brightness down a little bit, and we'll turn off that shadow. I don't really need that. There we go. And then that way we can get a little skull in there. Looks nice. And if we want, we can also put in some light sources inside of the skull's eye. Copy and paste. There we go. Cool. You guys are getting the idea here. Let's also throw in some cracked ground to show that there's some variation. So if I just go in like this and put in some cracked ground. Oh, this is a little too big. You always have to remember to rescale the texture. There we go. Now you can actually see the cracks. So let's go ahead and throw in some cracks at the base. It's also nice to throw some cracks at the base of the mountains, maybe on the side here, behind here. There we go. Oop, no, not there. I don't like that there. Here was fine, though. There we go. Okay. So you got some cracked ground there. All right. You guys are getting the general idea of it. I overall like that. Let's also... let's use a grass texture from Parchment World, actually. We're going to change things up. Let's use a grass texture. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just place it right here. And that way I can kind of get some texture in there without having to like put down all these stamps. So we have this nice grass texture in here. And wherever I see grass, that's where I'll put it. I'm not going to put it on the brown parts, just in where the green grass parts are. Don't worry about overlapping because you've got it set on a different layer. Okay, there we go. All right. So Wizard Tower, there we go. I think overall that looks good. I might want to throw in maybe a couple more light sources coming out of the tower, maybe coming out of the tower door. So I'll take this light source and just put it right there, another one right there. And then that will kind of look like there's light coming out of the doors. Or you can put them just on one side because this is the entrance right here. That's fine. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. We made our dingy tavern, and we also made a wizard tower. And the concept remains the same, right? When you go to resize, just go to resize, and then go ahead and just resize. Just make sure that you capture the entire top part of the diorama. And make sure that if you want stamps to show up like that summoning circle, you're going to want to make sure that it can fit in. And then just go to confirm. And then once you get to the new map, just delete the board. Okay? So that's it. The reason why we're using the isometric boards is because, again, it confines the space. So it's going to be less work and less intimidating. Maybe you want to come up with several sketches before you decide to follow, a final rendition. So using these little dioramas is a great way of kind of challenging yourself, creating little scenes. You don't have to add as many details because it's not a full-fledged map yet. You do that part later after you've resized it. So I hope that you guys found this useful. I hope you found it helpful in trying to put together regional maps. I kind of find that making battle maps is a little bit easier because it's just all flat and one-dimensional orthographic, while the regional stamps are isometric or pseudo-isometric, and so there's a lot more dimension to them. And so just remember to follow that rule that I mentioned. Put your taller stamps in the back and your shorter stamps in the front. It's a trick that people do in video games as well, right? They put the taller stamps or the taller structures in the back and the shorter ones in the front, so that way you're not obscuring what the players can see. So just remember these very simple tricks, and you should be able to make fantasy regional maps with ease. Just remember all the stuff that we went through in the video. Okay, all right, so next stream is on Friday. I forgot what that was, but it probably is, I think it's a bandits camp or something like that. Go ahead and check the calendar for that. All right, if you haven't already, go join our Discord server. Very, very helpful community. You'll find me there. If you have any questions, you can always ping me or mentors. Always glad to help. I hope you found this useful, and I will see you all on Friday, hopefully. Please take care. See you later, everybody.